This is the Beige and the Bold, and today we are watching New Ground. I am Van Velding, and I watched this episode when it originally aired.
I'm Derek. This is my first time watching this episode.
You ready?
Yep.
And 3, 2, 1, engage. I really enjoy the heck out of this episode. It is not the most gripping episode. It's not the most tense episode. But it's good. Like, it's solid. The bones are solid.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I like characterization of Worf. I have a pet theory about Worf being kind of the new soul of Klingons in Starfleet. I don't think it really means anything, but it's just something that I like to think of Worf as. I love this too. You have a science officer and a security officer like just doing stuff, and then the engineer's like, "Oh man, all this cool thing, solitary waves. We don't want to use these engines." Like, "Oh man," and they're like, "Yeah, man, it'll be cool. Don't worry about it."
I like that Geordi is happy to be made obsolete. It's very easy to overshadow that characterization in here, but that's super important.
Because he's excited. He's excited about the bigger picture, right? And he also knows that he'll have something to do. I mean, as long as you're curious, you'll have something to do. Yeah.
And I was wrong. I thought she didn't come back, but I guess she came back for this episode.
Yeah, this conversation though, it's I think stilted is the word, or at least from Worf's side. I mean, she is very much like, "Oh, Worf, look at you. You have so much, you look all skin and bones. Oh, we're coming down and visit." She has a lot of words, and Worf's like, "Thank you, mother. I will make arrangements."
And I'm sure a lot of that is characterization, but I'm sure some of it is also, shooting two different people in two different scenes and then compositing them in post.
Yeah.
I don't remember her being in this episode, though. I swear to God, my memory of this episode is that Alexander appeared on that transporter pad with a note pinned to his shirt.
He's all your problem, bye.
That's how I remember this happening.
Yeah.
So, maybe not.
Yeah.
I like that she considers him a Rozhinko.
Yeah, that's so kind of endearing that, they're different species, but she's like, "Oh, don't leave it. It's fine, Worf. Rozhinko men have always had distinguished beards." And it's like, "Oh, you're such a good mom."
I want to say it's romantic, but like it's in the vein of romantic as in the romantic style.
I would say that.
But different somehow.
Surprise. He's not going back. Does he know something you don't, Worf? We'll find out right after the commercial break.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you always know that there's going to be like an intro and then probably commercials. And so there are those certain beats, and it's just such a thing to end on.
It has been a long time since you and I have gone a few rounds on this, but I think that commercials heighten the pacing of these things. They may not be necessary, but I think that being able to break up your story, just take a break in the middle, to have these little points of tension can be a restriction that breeds creativity.
I mean, I think that, I'm all about, restrictions, in the name of creativity. But this is a restriction in the name of capitalism. And I think that you can totally tell story. Like I'm confident that I could get a group of writers together, and for however many minutes, what is this? 42 minutes and 15 seconds. I could tell just a straight shot, and it would breathe, and it would be fine. When you have to balance, I guess, the narrative and the commercials, it feels like something's lost to me.
We need to pick this up in a different episode. We need to look through what's coming up this season and decide an episode to fight this out on.
One is like, there's nothing going on here. Now back to what I was saying.
on the point of capitalism, though, there is a tendency for there to be a family structure presumed here.
That's true.
Where you have a single breadwinner, they control the house is a castle, they're the kids.
Yeah, and that's one thing.
Structural.
Yeah, and I would have loved, like, I talk about, like, what is the culture of Starfleet? Like, what, we have these different aliens in these different societies, what's it like? and it feels very kind of separated. And I would have loved to have seen, like, what does the family structure look like in a post-scarcity society? Like, both people don't need to work if they don't want to. So what? Like, is it like a village raise a kid, or something completely different? I mean, I don't know, but there is a subtext of just like, oh no, he's a working man, he's got job responsibilities, you can't take care of a kid right now, etc., etc.
Right, and I know it's nostalgia talking, but I wish this lady could have gotten to keep this dress. I think it looks great on her. But like, there is this presumption that Worf is a single parent, and therefore he only has the parenting power of one individual.
Yeah. And
he has to do it all himself, and he doesn't have like other people in his familial structure to help take care of Alexander.
Right.
And like, that's not important.
And I mean,
it's about single parents in the 90s. If you're going to have allegory, and if you're going to have your characters be part of that allegory, then they need to have mirror the structural idioms of the society they're allegorying for.
Yeah, for sure. And we're very different when it comes to old folk. At least, we just throw them in homes away from the die. And so I imagine there are some things that we've also we're different with how we raise kids and all this other sort of thing. But I do like how we kind of talked over that bit a little bit, where he's like, oh, he knocked over that green lamp. He's like, I don't remember you smiling when I knocked over that lamp. And he's like, oh, well, maybe, but then she talks about being old, and it's like, well, you remember the Saturday night orgies, Worf? We used to do this all the time, but he's a gawker, Worf. We can't. She's just she wants to have a little fling.
Yeah, like the deal is that she and Worf's dad are getting older, and it's not just the physical restraints of getting older, which I assume are alleviated somewhat by the fact that they live in the future and have free socialized healthcare. But it's also the fact that they had their kids. They are entitled to live their own lives and just be helicopter grandparents, or whatever the opposite of a helicopter grandparent is. I don't know. A Boeing grandparent? I don't know. Look, whatever it is, like, they're entitled to just drop in, spoil the kids, mess with all the parenting, and then a helicopter right the heck out. They don't care. Touch and go grandparenting. So, like, the parents themselves need to actually be in the trenches. They can't just offload it to their parents. And that principle is throughout this, although it's implicit.
And it is kind of interesting, too, because Worf will later kind of foreshadow this, talking about, like, how hard it is to raise Klingon men. And it's like, when you think about, they were younger when they raised Worf, so they had the energy to deal with kind of a rambunctious, like, I don't know, toddler, adolescent.
Whatever.
Klingon.
I think he was like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So, granted, Alexander's like 3 right now. So
is he really?
Yeah.
That kid looks like he's 9.
Yeah. No, I mean, he and Kalar banged it out in season 1. And,
yeah, that's true.
I'm sorry, that's insensitive. He and Corpse Mom banged it out in season 1, and she died in like early season 3. So he's had just a little less time with Alexander than she has.
Yeah, that's true.
And we get this great scene that kind of underlies, like, for the time in, how little Worf has made of it.
Right.
Where he's going to check Alexander into kindergarten and not do a great job of it.
That awkward walk to school, and he's like, yeah, no, I can do this. I'm a security officer. I routinely train, destroying hordes of monsters. Checking a kid in kindergarten is going to be easy.
Yeah.
And then, here you have kind of this matron that has raised all kind. I would love it if there were just all of this almost, a zoo is the wrong word, but just this eclectic differences of various species that she's had to rear in some form or fashion. And she was like more grizzled than Worf was. Like, he's like,
it would be nice. Because, like, she's a fairly off the shelf, blonde-haired, very mild-mannered kindergarten teacher, lady. And, it's not about her, so we don't really care. We don't need to, like, explore new dimensions with kindergarten teachers in the future, because we're very focused on this story where Worf just isn't that close with his own freaking kid. He doesn't even know his kid's birthday. That's what's happening right now. She's like, date of birth. And he's like, I'd like to phone a friend.
Yeah. Alexander's looking like, yeah, Dad, what's my date of birth?
Yeah. He's like, Data, what's my son's birth date? Data's like, oh, I know that one. It's the 23rd day of March. Thank you, Data.
I have his birthday. I have his everything I know about Alexander living in the colony settlement in my mind.
Yeah. So, and Worf was like, I don't know if he's going to stay here or not. Like, right in front of his kid. Here's and Picard.
He doesn't know that that's
Picard, son. Picard. Mr. Data, harmonize. Oh, here's Walden. It's great.
Yeah, I like how he's just kind of, he's just like, yeah, just doing captain things, sitting in my captain chair.
Yeah, so we established that we don't have answering machines, and also Worf can't call his boss when he's going to be late for a meeting.
Yeah, like, come on, this is weird. Everyone is about to interrupt this meeting, and it's like, okay, in theory, this should happen every day, like every single episode.
Yeah.
We're like, all right, go to red alert. Also, your dentist appointment needs rescheduling.
Yeah, you think like the comm badges would beep and like it just sort of beeps and he has to touch to answer it, or like he does a long hold to put it on voicemail.
Yeah.
But like, you know, the scene is designed for us to show how hard it is for a single parent to do their job and then also take care of all of the needs that a kid has. You know, it communicates that, but
there was answering machines in the 90s. So it's just like, I mean, I get it. It's for the sake of him being out of his element. And I do like how Picard here just says, hey, look, man, you're not the first officer to have to deal with this stuff. Like, you know, I don't know if you know this, but you have like a literal platoon of people under you that can do this job. Like, don't even sweat it.
Picard grins to himself. I'm a good captain. That's what they're going to say. Captain Cool Picard. So we're now to our B plot, where the
A, B-ish, I don't know, they kind of intertwine, I guess.
I don't know. People make fun of Star Trek The Next Generation aliens for being four-head aliens, and they're also like, oh, these aliens are so ugly, and I'm like, oh, you people are so primitive and backwards, but also this guy's face bears a remarkable resemblance to an anus. This
dude looks like just like one of his parents was like a tire, and the other parent was just
allergic to sunscreen.
Yeah,
it's not great.
And they just made it happen, and they raised him the best way they could, and he founded the Sultan technology.
Yeah, so that other people could shoot him far away from their planet. It's just, it's not aesthetically appealing, and I know. Again, this is me recriminating myself for being totally shallow about this.
Right.
But yikes, this alien.
I mean, props to Picard and the crew for like, ooh, like he walks out of the thing, Worf's like, man, you see that guy?
Thank you for coming to my briefing. The vomit pail is in the hallway outside. Anyway, so Solarian waves. It's going to be able to shoot things without warp drive. Oh, we got to talk about this then, I guess. Troi
incoming nag. Yeah, she's like, hey, Worf, before you get back to your job, like, did you know that I know all the things that you should be doing, and you're not doing them, Worf? What's the deal? I thought you'd be excited.
She says, hey, there's a father-son field trip this afternoon. Why don't you go with your son? And then she explains the upside. And Worf is like, I have an easily rescheduled appointment. And she's like, more upsides to doing
like this. That point where she says, this would be a good opportunity. And she does it in like, with some sass, like, this would be a good opportunity for you to get to know your son. Like, hey, don't pull that whole you need to do your job thing. We know that other people can do your job.
I feel like the problem there in calling it a nag is with her tone, and I can't think of a word for like judging people's tone in a conversation that otherwise has merit. Like you're a cop of some kind about tones. I'm just saying.
Took me a while to see where you're going with that, but well done.
It's rare. I'm just saying it's rare for Troi to be at an advantage and to be right. I think it's one of the cases where she's doing it.
Yeah, and she's gonna get. So I was a little worried about Troi in this episode because I thought they were just going to like, oh, cool, a perfect place where she could help out with counseling, and she's told they're going to help out with counseling, but she does later on. So I mean, that's going to be kind of really cool.
It is unsolicited life coaching, I'll grant.
Yes.
So red card on Troi, 5-yard penalty. But
And so this is kind of interesting too. They have like these. We don't know who watches them. I mean, I assume like every department, which I'm sure in the Enterprise there are many, has like some sort of like administrator or like head person. And if you have like a special team, or like a special task, like, hey, these are the last 2 Muppets on the face of the galaxy. We gotta transport them from A to B. Hey, Space Steve Irwin, can you do that? And he's like, oi, I can. And so...
Sorry, but in the joyful lightness of the future, there's only chicken wire.
Yeah. Like not electro chicken wire, like literal chicken wire.
It's got like tachyons in there. You know, it's from the future.
Yeah, maybe some. It's got science stuff in it.
Neutrino fields.
I like this where Worf does like the age-old parenting mistake. He's like, "Excuse me, white lady, are you accusing my boy of stealing? I'll handle this. Alexander, did you steal the thing? Nope.
It's a rookie
I,
parenting
as a security officer,
Worf, yeah.
See, bam, done.
And like, it's the stupidest thing. It's like, look, let's just get a new lizard, and then we'll replicate 10 more lizards and throw them at Alexander. This is the greatest hand acting in the history of Star Trek. Checking that one.
Yeah.
Oh no, the hand is sad now.
No.
Oh, the lizard of betrayal.
Found something. Uh-oh. And see, here's the thing too. I mean, what I think's so funny about that scene is not just like it's a parenting flub, but it's also that like Worf is a security officer. Like, ostensibly he deals with people who are like, "Hey, did you hit that person? No. Hey, did he hit you? Yeah. All right, one of you was lying."
So yeah, and this scene is, you know, Worf tells Alexander how bad it is to lie, and it highlights the differences between Worf and Alexander. Worf was raised from a young age as a Klingon, and then he was taken in by Federation guys who had no reason to take him in, right?
Right.
The Intrepid was the ship that responded, and then an officer from the Intrepid took him in, which I don't know how legal that is. Yeah. Like, I think that's less legal and more Batman.
Dubious legality.
Yeah, like look, here's an orphan child. It's mine now. It's like, come on, what is your last name? Rajinko Wayne? But still... so he's like, man, these guys didn't take me in, but they did. But I had at least a Klingon upbringing. Alexander, though, his mom, like, barely raised him as a Klingon because she has contempt for Klingon tradition. Yeah. And then she gets murdered in front of Alexander, and Worf is like, I'm gonna shoot this kid like a pinball. And now you
have, like, the most Klingon, a Klingon weeaboo. Like, don't you understand anything about our culture? Listen.
Yeah.
When you lie, you don't just damage your honor, you damage my honor, and honor is everything.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe it, look at this 3-foot-tall bronze statue I had made.
Yeah. Which is weird. I think we're going to get a close-up on it here in a second. But
it gets a lot of space just because you can't pan at this angle without it being in the shot. And so not only is it going to be in, is it kind of floating around this scene, but it's also going to float around in some scenes later when he's packing up his things to run away wherever he's going to run away to.
It's a big statue. But the deal is Alexander's like, well, screw you, buddy. You owe me. You made me. Like, if my honor reflects badly on you, I mean, I don't give a crap. I'm Alexander. I'm 3, motherfucker.
Yeah, and Worf's trying to explain that, right? And, he's using the statue to kind of say, "Hey, look, this is really important to me, and I'm telling you why this is important. This could easily be this weird pendant that I put on my lapel, but it's a 3-foot bronze statue, and the reason why that is because it's important." And I feel like it does carry some water with respect to characterizing Worf. Because it shows like how seriously he takes Klingon culture. Yeah. And I like
it's something internal and unverifiable. I like that. I like this conversation with Deanna where she's like, "Oh, how'd the field trip go?" Worf's like, "Did you not hear of my dishonor? Is the entire ship not speaking about my child who is a lizard thief?"
I would love it if like he's always melodramatic about like the littlest thing. Just like, did you hear? Alexander did not finish his plate. All Klingons make happy plates.
He goes into engineering, talks to an ensign. Before you say anything, I would like to talk to you about Alexander's laundry. I realize by now the entire ship is abuzz about it. And he was like, I just need the security password.
It's like, listen, I don't know if no one explained this to you, like in Starfleet boot camp. I mean, yeah, we have logs of everything, but no one reads them. Like, we don't know what's going on.
And here's another classic Worf parenting mistake. I spoke reasonably with my child about it. They're gonna fly straight from now on. And even Troi, even Troi, who had a child for like about as long as Worf has, honestly, in terms of real RPM, real parenting hours.
Right.
It's like, I don't think that's right, Worf. I don't think it works that way.
Yeah, I mean, but she has the good grace of like, all right, well, I'm gonna let you make your mistake. Peace. Yeah. And
let's see how it plays out, Cotton.
Yeah. That's a bold strategy. Let's see if it plays out for him. Yeah. So, and it's good counseling that he, she lets him kind of like, okay, well, I hope all that tracks.
Look, your completely untamed wild child isn't going to die from this or anything, so I'll just let it go. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about the Soliton wave that much. This would revolutionize the universe of Star Trek.
Right. This would be, instead of like having a whole bunch of like internal techno infrastructure to go to warp, you just shoot away from planet to planet. Turns out, not a great technology to transport ship, excellent technology to blow up planets.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Ure from the very first episode of the Venture Brothers, where he's like, who'd want an Ure? And the military wants it and it melts the little model city. So yeah. But it is interesting, like it wouldn't change our perspective on the universe too much. But then you would have to like, Star Trek is the setting with the ships, but then also they use Soliton's wave to get from system to system. And like the status quo begins dragging its heels to make this into what could be a universe redefining technology, but ends up just being a thing that gives us some drama at the end. Yeah.
And that's the kind of sad bit about the episodic nature of Star Trek, is that there are some moments where like, oh man, this could have like far-reaching impacts. And because it's episodic, like, nope, no, it doesn't. Everything's going to go right back to zero at the end of the episode.
Alexander is an example of when it doesn't do that, when it doesn't just write off its history.
Yeah, sometimes.
And the thing is that, Alexander was there and then he went away for like a year. And then they're like, okay, we now have a good Alexander story, so let's bring Alexander back. And if there was a good Soliton wave story, they'd bring it back. I think this is the biggest hit. Look at their like,
they're all like on the side. Even Frakes is, kind of hamming it up a bit. So, Picard's like, I'm not going to fall because captains don't fall. Number one, fall to the deck. Aye, sir.
So yeah, and they would bring it back, but there just isn't one. There isn't a big story involved in bringing Soliton waves back. We're not going to see the Borg until there's a good story to bring some Borg back.
Oh dang.
So
and this is I assume that whole ship, like, the reason why we're not talking about casualties at the moment is that it was unmanned, or we've just no longer care about whoever was manning them. Maybe they were just some sort of slave race that were expendable. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and this is just automated. It's like a probe, which is what you do, because we don't need any people on board there to be worried about. Yeah. But now suddenly the wave is like super dangerous.
Yeah, and so which is weird because they had a plan to stop the wave already. Like they were just like, oh yeah, no, we're just gonna cancel out with the anti-Soliton wave. Everything's gonna be fine. And it's like, okay, well, apparently we can't do that for whatever reason, which we're gonna find out a little bit later, but not at the moment. Geordi's just kind of giving him a pep talk.
Worf is like, 1-1 with this teacher, and he's determined to get a win out of this.
Yeah, he wants a win so bad. He's like, all right, round 2, what you got?
And she's like, okay, so first off, let me hit you with the small stuff.
Yeah.
He's a little bit rebellious. He's a little bit willful, and like she's just paying out line of like the classic Cleon child bit.
Right.
And he's like, I know you teach on the Enterprise, which is like a super diverse crew of humans or whatever, but you don't anything about Klingons.
Yeah, right. And I would love for her, like, just like to like pull down her shirt a little bit. Like, you see the scar? That's from this morning. A child bit out my heart because he thought it could take my soul. You know, this kind of thing I would deal with on a regular basis. So let's not put Klingons in the pedestals too much, weed.
But then Dorn gives us this great smirk where he's like, Klingons are hard to raise. And she's like, bitch, he's also doing things that aren't very Klingon, like lying and stealing.
And guess what? He told me you said, and like, oh no, he didn't. I'm getting up to rectify this right. Well, not right now, but he's about to.
It's so great. And the best thing is that when she's like, he told me that Klingons don't listen to teachers. That is Worf's didactic rhythm perfectly. It's so great.
Yeah.
And instead of being like, all right, you win, Worf is like, you know what? I declare double secret like overtime.
He's doing this like parenting, clutching pearls bit, like, my son, I never. But like in like a Klingon sort of macho way, and I'm so here for this. And he's like, no, we're not doing this crap. Hold on, where's Alexander Computer? Like, she's out of the equation now. He's like, no, I got stuff to do.
Can I shot put toddlers in this corridor? Next deck up? All right, I'm on it.
Yeah, as he's walking to like the gym, he's like, Beverly Crusher, how much damage could Alexander take that you could repair easily?
And Dr. Crusher's like, oh man, I remember raising Wesley like a lot. Like a lot.
Oh man,
if I'd known you 3 years earlier, Worf.
Yeah, you could easily break all of his arms and a few of his ribs and he'll be fine. Excellent, good to know.
And Worf comes into the holodeck only to find that Alexander's kind of already on top of that.
Yeah, and you know, he has like this moment, I think it's about to come up, where he's like doing the kind of shadow boxing thing. He's like, yeah, get up, beat his ass. I think it's right. Come on. I know it's here. He does there he is. He's got his fists up. He's like, come on, you can do it. But he's come in here to discipline him. So he's got those two parts of him. He's proud of his son, but he's mad that he lied. And so now he's got to basically be the heavy, and he's really not used to it because the first time he tried didn't work.
To set my record for maximum pettiness during an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. I thought the holodeck was frozen, man. Why is the fog still moving a little bit? Anyway.
Someone doesn't have all of his edge cases covered in his holodeck program.
Yeah. It's good where they're trying to... Worf's trying to be a parent and Alexander's continuing to lie.
Yeah.
And, this happens where, teachers tell you one thing, kids tell you another. Yeah. And it's like, do you side with the teachers or your kids? And it's like, it sucks. I don't even have to do it. Yeah. It sucks.
Yeah. And at the same time, it's like, you can have, like, both players in this game can make bad decisions. It's how much decisions they continue to make. Like, if you have a bad teacher acting in bad faith, then you eventually believe the kid. You have a kid, acting in bad faith, you eventually believe the teacher. Regardless of what's happening, he's making a call and he's sticking to it. And now he won't stick to it, but I mean, like, he's making a call. He's kind of escalating. He's like, no, listen.
Yeah.
Now you're lying to me directly, and that's not going to happen. And dishonor is a big deal. Didn't you realize what I was saying when we talked in front of the big bronze statue of naked men wrestling?
Yeah. He's like, all right, for this transgression, Alexander, I will send you to a board with a nail in at school. And you're like, totally worse. But, technically it's a Klingon school, but yeah. And it's like, it is getting out of control. Like, their center cannot hold. They're just too,
right.
Each of them are too unstable and mercurial and not into this enough for it to work.
Right. And kids need boundaries. And I mean, like, that's like 101. Kids will always push boundaries. And the first thing that you want to do is, like, set boundaries and don't move them. Because the minute you move boundaries, kids remember that crap and they just take all they can get.
So,
because they're little psychopaths. A lot of them.
I wouldn't disagree with that, but I would say in this case, it's, Worf just doesn't want to be a parent because being a parent sucks and it makes him worse at his job.
Yeah.
And he's like, Worf seems to prefer the simplicity career-wise of just doing his job to the best of his ability. It's one of his characteristics.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if he wants to be a captain or not, but like,
yeah, we don't really know his ambition, right? Like we don't really, like, we know he's competent. We know that if he needs to fill some kind of role and we ask Worf to do it, he's going to do his damn best at it. But we don't know what he wants beyond that.
Yeah, and then he and Geordi were both Lieutenant Junior grades when the series started, and now Geordi's a lieutenant commander and running a division, and Worf is still a lieutenant, and he's going to be a lieutenant till the end of the show. Yeah. And like, as evidenced by the fact that he doesn't just kill Geordi, he's not that chained to it.
Yeah, in the Klingon ways, in the old path.
Yeah.
I like here that he is willing to go to counseling. Like, he's like, hey, listen, I need to talk to someone about what's going on here. And he doesn't shy away from some of the difficult things. And because he's friends with Deanna, she can ask like certain questions that she happens to know because, they have shared history.
Yeah, I feel like this scene exists because Whoopi Goldberg was making Sister Act or Ghost or whatever. But like, it's for the best.
Yeah, it is for the best. 100%.
Yeah.
I wish this kind of stuff happened more often. I wish that, Deanna Troi.
We could see Troi do this more often.
Yeah. Well, and her empathy was more characterized as like, is he lying? Yes. Is he lying? Well, I don't know. There's some weird energy field. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, give me the limits of what you can do. But it's all fiat based. And, he's like saying like, hey, look, he's couching this in I feel like this is best for him because I don't know what I'm doing. And that's like a normal parenting thing, is to just like, oh crap, I don't know what I'm doing. And then as you get beyond it, you realize, oh wait, nobody does. Everyone's winging it. Well, hell, man, this is gonna be easy.
I mean, yeah, true. But if you screw up your kid because you took a gamble on being a single parent, trying to do a job where you got like, Urays and cosmic streams just shooting you all the time, and your kid ends up screwed up, which, spoilers, Alexander does, then that's your job. That's your fault. If you have your parents do it, you can blame your parents for him too. That's a twofer, man.
It is a twofer. I can understand the appeal of the twofer.
Yeah.
And, I like how, here, she's kind of talking to him about like, hey, listen, kids don't have the experience that adults have. So they just kind of like, they have like no filter on their emotions. They just go, blah, and we just have to like show them, hey, no, that's not cool, man. Stop it.
Yeah, man. And have you considered the fact that Alexander saw his mom die to get away from him, and then you sent him away, and then his grandparents sent him back to you, and now you're going to send him to, I don't know, whatever the Cleon equivalent of Little Warriors is, Little Soldiers is.
Yeah.
Not great, man.
Right. And, he comes out like with conservative values and willing to like shoot anything that moves. I like that they have this kind of talk, and he's like, hey, right after, like, how do you think Alexander felt? And it's like, how do you feel about like the chick that you made him with? Heard she died, are you kind of maybe holding a little bit of resentment?
Yeah. I mean, one of the unspoken bits here is just that Kalar wasn't the greatest of parent.
Right.
I feel like she didn't set boundaries. And like, I think there are a few times here where Worf quietly expresses like, motherfucking Kalar. If your mom wasn't so dead, I'd be blaming so many things on her right now.
Yeah.
And I think Kalar and Worf, despite being like a lapsed Catholic / Catholic couple, would have raised Alexander pretty decently.
Yeah,
but like,
there's a statue again. It's like you really get to see a sense of how huge it is. He's running away to where? Like,
yeah.
Like he's like, I'm done. I'm leaving, and it's like, where are you gonna go? Have you thought this through?
Well, he's doing the excessive compliance bit where Worf is like, I'm going to send you away. And I was like, fine, I'll pack all my stuff. Unanswered question of this episode in terms of continuity and universe stuff is like, whenever that bridge was totally shook a few scenes ago, like, where was that monument going with Alexander? So like, oh, that was a big hit. Worf to Alexander, how's the statue? Is the statue okay, Alexander? How is it?
Did you? I don't. Yeah, no. You gotta walk it off. But the statue, is it okay?
I can hardly breathe, Father. It's fine. It'll be fine.
Cracked ribs build character. But yeah, this is interesting how they were having an argument, and then his work got in the way, and he didn't like have the sense to be like, all right, hold up, let me finish with my son and I'll get up there.
Yeah, and in an emergency, Worf's got to boogie up there. He's already going to be late. But like in another sense, like if Worf had a neighbor, like Lieutenant Next Door Neighbor, and he's like, hey, Lieutenant Next Door Neighbor, I have a kid now, and if I go to Red Alert, I got to be on the bridge because I'm a senior officer. Could you just check on him? And Lieutenant Next Door Neighbor could be like, yeah, sure, it's fine. We're a community here on Deck 9, Section 12. Community.
Yeah, exactly.
But like that's not what we're doing.
Yeah, and like if you ever needed any convincing that it takes a village to raise a kid, all you got to do is make a kid near your family, and after like year 1 or 2, just move away and have no structural support net whatsoever. It's not easy. It's rough going.
And this episode could easily be about that future familial structure instead of this atomized 1950s your home is your castle type of thing. And it's really not, and it doesn't need to be 20 years more ahead of its time than it is.
Yeah.
I think it's just worth noting the assumptions this show needs to have to be relevant to the people who are watching it in the 1990s.
Right.
But we're going to stop the Soliton wave. That's our plan.
Yeah. This is, he's like, hey, we're going to go through the Silicon wave because it's more dangerous. And then we're going to make a whole bunch of torpedoes explode at once. And then that's going to make like this weird blowy up wavy thing. And that's going to be good. Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, because otherwise it'll like destroy the planet, right?
Right. Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. It turns out, and that's kind of one of the funny ironies about this episode is, especially since we started off with all of this optimism about Worf's like, or about Geordi, like, oh man, everything's gonna be great. It's gonna be so awesome. It's gonna be cool. And then it's like, oh no, congrats, you made a planet to planet weapon. We don't even need to like have ships go over to another planet to kill it. We can just send a Soliton wave and be done.
It would be great if in the midst of a war with another spacefaring species, the Federation's like, look, we're just going to make 10 Soliton generators from the planets around them and just whammy them. Just whammy them.
Yeah, just bam, bam.
Space. But, I guess that's a war crime or something. So, whatever.
Yeah. They signed that treaty in Space Geneva.
It didn't say Soliton weapons, but it was like Soliton weapons.
Heavily implied, I guess.
Yeah, it's heavily. If you can wipe out half a planet with something the size of, a starship, that's not good.
Right.
That's against the rules. It's a foul.
And so here, we know he put everyone... he didn't put everyone on Red Alert yet, but everyone, I assume, is briefed on this really scary mission. And, Space Steve Irwin is, doing nothing, with these kids. And all of a sudden, these animals...
someone should be in charge of the Gilvos.
Right.
And whoever that person is, they're not with the Gilvos right now. Like a handler for Gilvos who know what they eat and how they feel about stuff. And, okay, I'm in charge of the Gilvos. Don't feed them candy corn or whatever.
Yeah.
Wherever the Gilvos guy is, I feel like he's passed out somewhere on another part of the ship.
Yeah.
Just completely messing this up.
Yeah, and that's the other kind of gig too, is that I don't know how many of these departments they have. You'd expect everyone to have a playbook of some kind, and there is no playbook for the Gilvos. They're just going to straight up there's only 2 left. Oh no, they're going to die.
Yeah, like with a dozen missions before, it's just some guy comes on, he's wearing awful future clothes, and he has a romance with a member of the senior staff, and, there's some drama or whatever, and then he gets off the ship when the episode is over. That guy just isn't here. I like that Riker's in charge of it. We presume he's having the romance with the Gilvos guy. And he's like, look, I kind of run things on the ship that you don't know about. That's why we got life forms in the biolab.
Right.
It's why is your son in the biolab, Worf?
Yeah. Do you realize how many honor points you're going to lose?
Worf was like, why aren't the fire suppression systems working? Isn't that Data's kid's fault? And Data's like, my cat did do that, but we're not talking about my cat, Worf. So it's no one else.
Yeah, so this is just kind of, this Murphy's Law, everything goes wrong at the right time. And then you realize the Soliton wave is really just the longest starting the alarm clock mechanism ever. To just... To this right here, we have about 4 minutes. Okay, you have 3.
I was like, let me get my kid. There's security officers all over the secondary.
What would you have done if he said no, Worf? If you asked for permission and he said no, what would you have done? Not go get Alexander? Come on, man.
The irony of that conversation taking longer than the safety margin they had.
Right.
Is, but, dramatic purposes. Time freezes when people are talking in tense situations.
Yeah, so. I mean, I do like how Worf here is just like ready to just attack whatever's on the other side of the door. He has no idea what's going on. And he's like, you tried it twice, get aside. He just rips off a panel of the ship. Jeez.
Riker's like, dude, they have a thing under it. You just hit. Yeah, never mind. Worf, it's fine.
The age-old art of chip swatching, swapping.
I love these two as a bro team, though.
Yeah.
Like they go into danger together. This is clearly our Riker scene to give us the appearance of action to keep the show's cred as an action show. Like, oh man, I hope Alexander's not dead or anything. I mean, it smells like Cleon. I mean, it smells delicious. I mean, oh, I'm sorry for your loss, Worf. It's super hot.
Where did you say you were stationed again before you went on the Enterprise?
Andy's 4. So anyway, I was part of the soccer team. Yeah. And I feel like Frakes has like a dial on his back that sets his emotion and a slider that sets the intensity. Right. And they set it to chasm. And it's always at 100% because it's Frakes.
Right.
And so he's doing chasm shouting across the tiny room.
Yeah, he was like 10 feet away. Like, come on, man. You don't have to yell.
It was way too loud.
Yeah.
It was way too loud. But whatever. They got to lift the thing off of Alexander.
Right here. Like, Worf literally called him over in just like a regular voice. Hey, Frakes, it's over here, man.
These sets are really small, bro. It was set to chasm, bro.
Yeah, and it's like, oh no. He said in a whimpering voice, engage mom strength.
Because, I guess it comes back to the story of the mom having enough adrenaline to like lift the car off their kid or whatever. And it's like, this is his paternal moment where his paternal instincts are too strong.
Yeah.
And even the beam that he couldn't lift with Riker, he tosses aside. Riker's like, cool, glad I was here to help.
And it's kind of jacked up that they could have just sent Data and he could have done this with like 2 hands. And just like, yep, got it. All right. Like, use like superhuman breath to just like take out all the fire while he's there. And you're like, oh, you need the gobos? Okay, cool.
The damage control team, whose job is to do this professionally with like tools that are on every deck, if there's anything like a Navy ship. And to Picard's credit, he just cuts the cord here. He's like, shoot the torpedoes, ionize those officers.
I mean, fire. I like that too. I like how he has. It reads to me that he has faith in his officers that they're gonna perform their duties well and everything's gonna be fine. Or he's been waiting to ionize Frakes and Worf for a few seasons now. One of the two. Yeah.
Riker's like, those Muppets are safe. We barely made it out because of the Muppets. We made it.
Yeah, and like I would love it if like Frakes got commendated because he saved the Muppets and like he really wanted to let them die. Like, and for saving the last Muppets in the galaxy whose excretions can cure the crazy plague that no one could ever cure before, we give you this accommodation. It's like, oh wow, they cured a plague. Oh damn. I mean, yeah, I knew that the whole time.
Yeah. So here we get our denouement though. It's a good time.
Yeah, and like I like the way Worf handles this. He's kind of coming to his own as a parent to some degree.
Yeah.
Alexander is worried that he made his dad upset, and his dad's like, "Hey, we're not going to talk about that. Don't worry about me being in trouble." And he couches, like, he doesn't say like, "Hey, I'm making the decision. You're no longer going to the Klingon school." What he does say, he's like, if you want to go to the Klingon school, you can. However, I think there's a bigger challenge. And if you would like, you can stay here with me and we'll face the challenge together. So he includes him in the decision-making process. And I feel like that's a really good step up from where he started in this episode.
Yeah. And Worf couches it as a challenge because traditionally masculinity doesn't involve like taking care of your kid.
Yeah.
It involves not taking care of your kid and being above all that. And so Worf couches it as a challenge, as something that he can do to prove his worth as a macho man, which Worf is.
Yeah, and I love that because I feel like that is the kernel of how Klingons can reconcile their philosophy with Starfleet's kind of basically pacifism, is that there are all of these challenges in life. and they can continually try to better themselves, which is not a comfortable thing. But the people who are the best at it are the people that are the highest in society.
Yeah. And, despite the very Taken-esque idea in here that, like,
right.
Worf's expression of his paternal love is to risk physical danger and then move heavy things.
Right.
Or kill terrorists, whatever. Like, that's how he proves he loves the kid. And it's like, you don't get that in real life. What you get is you get the acceptance of the challenge of working through all the hardships of parenting.
Right. Yeah, and I like that we have a narrative that talks about that. It isn't all explosions and looking like some sort of counterterrorism thing. Sometimes it's just looking challenge in the eye and saying we're going to do this. And I feel like there should be more stories like that, honestly.
Yeah. There's more to it than just mom strength. Those
right.
Dramatic conflicts where you do something short-lived and physical and definitive whenever it's a daily process.
Yep.
TNG, sure. Everybody. TNG. Final thoughts?
Yeah, so I like New Ground. I feel like, part of it is because I have this pet theory with Worf, but part of it is just that they do a kind of good job of showing Worf kind of grow an episode. I really wish they would have kind of taken it less out of like the single parent in the 90s role and more of just like, here's what social structures look like in a post-scarcity society. That would have been an interesting and fun way to kind of go about it. But, I don't think any writer in the 90s was even thinking about like the social implications of post-scarcity. So,
I mean, Gene Roddenberry was dead, so no.
There you are then. So it's not bad. It's a good episode.
Ditto. Underrated, but again, very understated.
Yep.
So next week we are going to watch Hero Worship.
All right, so the card that we get from Netflix is Data with a ridiculously long straw, like sipping, I guess, like some soda of some kind, and then a kid also sipping like some sort of like a lighter version of that, and I guess like some cakes or something, some brightly colored foods, and they're both kind of doing the same thing. Yeah. I think this is 10 Forward. It looks like 10 Forward, or he's taking the kid to a bar somewhere. I don't know. 6 on one and half a dozen the other. And this is the summary we get from Netflix. Data rescues a boy, and in a way to repress his own pain, the boy begins to mimic Data's personality. Interesting. Okay, so that's why they're doing the same thing. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's kind of interesting. Like just having like the kid in print on Data is like, I'm going to be like you, Data. Yeah, I think there could be some interesting stuff there. It's kind of like, this definitely looks like, it's like the second kid episode, right? We have 2 kid episodes back to back.
Yeah, I know, right? But not bad ones.
Okay.
But we will see next week.
Yep.
And until then, remember Rand. I'll make this short because no one likes credits. Star Trek is property of CBS Television Studios and Paramount Pictures. We are watching Star Trek on Netflix. We are talking over Discord. And we are recording and editing on Audacity. The Beige and The Bold is hosted on Anchor and can be found on most podcasting platforms. I would also like to thank our senior officer Patreons for supporting The Beige and The Bold. They also make video editions of this podcast and remasters of old episodes possible. So thank you to Tracker by Moonlight and Miss Jess. If you have any questions or concerns about the show, please contact me at vanvelding@gmail.com or on Twitter @vanvelding. Thank you, and remember Rand.